This is the main driver of inflation simplified. So imagine Australia, we have 5 bananas. That's all we consume. This is all our goods and services. And we only have $5 in cash in circulation. So now we have $5 chasing 5 bananas. So this is the amount of money chasing the amount of goods and services. So each banana is going to be worth around $1 each. Now imagine the government decides to print some more money. They put more money in circulation. So now we've got twice as much money in this case, chasing the same amount of bananas. So goods and services haven't increased, but the money supply has. So now each banana is probably going to double in value and go up to about $2 each. Now imagine a thing like COVID comes along and the government says, you guys need to shut your businesses down. Their mates can keep their businesses open though. And they print some more money to shut everybody up and to keep them happy. So now we've got even more money chasing fewer goods and services. And so that forces the price of things up. Okay, this is the main driver of inflation, not the Ukraine war.
Thank you, Midas Touch, for this story here, because, we must talk about all the great things that the Biden-Harris administration has done, and especially this here at Thanksgiving time. Because it is time to be grateful and to be thankful, because after this, there will be no more things to be thankful about. Anyhow, great article to go read in Midas Touch, y'all. They got the news of all news. I just love them. Thanksgiving dinner prices fall to the lowest point in decades. Thank you, President Biden. Thank you, VP Harris. So much to be thankful for. Like this. T-Rump's going to inherit a remarkable economy. Thank you again, Biden and Harris, for all the great things you have done for the blue-collar working families. Now let's talk about getting the pickle slipped to us here. Oh, shit. Would y'all look at that right there? T-Rump's economic plans would worsen inflation, experts say. Well, we had good times for a little while. And speaking of everything of good times, we all know about the pickle situation. And I'm sure this man right here knows a lot about where the pickle gets slipped off into, if you know what I'm saying. Well, at least we have something to be thankful about, and that is those low prices that you will have this year at your Thanksgiving dinner. Now, after that, it all goes to shit in a handbag. That's right. Who knows where the pickle goes then?
Does it bother anybody else that our justice system is so corrupt? They call it justice, yet it's so corrupt. As Black people, we tend to get longer and harsher sentences for either the same crimes or lesser crimes than our counterparts. What really irks me is Trump and him getting away with things. How many other people do you know who could get away with that many felonies? We would be under the jail. It's just really hurtful to a population in whole if he gets away with everything. If he releases those guys from January 6th, when there's many a people sitting in jail and prison who never committed a crime. But since our criminal justice system is so poor and corrupt, they may live out the rest of their lives in there. They may take their last breath in there. But then there's Trump and the privileged who could go around pillaging women, pillaging the earth, doing whatever they want, and they remain free. Justice system reform is needed ASAP.
So this morning, right, I was talking to somebody early this morning, and it was like, that is wild if justice really doesn't exist, justice and law. I was like, right? That's why I have been freaking out for 2 years now. You understand? Your brain have to rewire itself now to live with the reality that there is really not any justice. Justice doesn't mean justness. to the people who giving out justice. It just means whoever they favor in any given moment. And to me, if that applies like that, then breaking the law only applies if somebody sees it. If justice only applies when they feel like liking somebody, or when somebody looking over their shoulder to make sure they're doing the right thing, then breaking a law only applies if somebody caught you breaking the law. Is that how it works? You see, people that say autistic people have a different view on things because they cannot fake. They cannot be two-faced. They see things as it is and they say it as it is. But this is how I see it. So is it that criminal activity is only criminal activity if somebody sees you or if somebody is willing to enforce it? Which is what has been going on right through, right? Because how could the same thing that is wrong for us be right for the police to do it? They have a pass to break the law over and over. There is really not any justice. We're still living in cowboy days. It's just our mindset of being submissive allows people to put us in this mind frame where we feel like this is the law and we should abide by it. I used to think the law is there to keep peace, to keep us away from chaos. But under law, we still have chaos. What are you really doing right now? Accepting the fact that somebody violated me and the law would not punish them at all. We all submitting to this law. We submitting to a law that persecuting us. Does that make sense to you all? Is it autism or is it making sense to you? We submitting to a law that is not protecting us. I thought the reason why we have the justice system and laws and police and all of that was to protect us. We all abide by it so that we all get protected when it's time for us. But we are abiding by it just so that it could persecute us. Like if for by chance, the person who hurt us, if somebody let some police officer like, they just could not investigate. They just could not investigate. Not. I didn't know a police officer could just not investigate. And then, much less for a whole station, a Rima station, for 2 years, nobody investigate that. Up to now, nobody investigating anything, no matter how much noise I make. And then you think, well, you have all the evidence, you're a victim, you're innocent. You go to the court. For sure, they're going to rule in your favor because that's what the court is for, right? It's for people who are innocent to receive justice. The whole purpose of the court system is for us to get closure when we can't get closure from a perpetrator. That's why in America, you see this, give them a little time to make a speech to the perpetrator too, before they get locked up. It's a form of closure. That's how you get all right with moving on. But it don't work so here. It's like being out in, when you realize what's really going on, it's like being out in the ocean where your toes not touching the ground. And probably if you feel sharks around, that feeling. Because, can you imagine? So now I could be innocent, I could be a victim, I could have all the evidence, and they could just rule against me, despite. You understand how wild that is? There is no justice. Whenever a magistrate scratch your ass and feel like this one prettier or that one he like more, or he or she, whether another person sitting in front of you is a rapist, they just decide, well, you working in a job that I like, I should side with you. It is wild. It is wild. More of you need to realize that.
I have officially run out of sympathy for Trump voters who, of course, are now freaking out as they realize that his mass deportation plans could mean that they themselves get tossed out of the country, or their loved ones do, or their children do, or that it means that their financial situation is actually about to get a whole lot worse. Again, I'm out of sympathy. I have seen too much, I have said too much, I have read too much, I have warned too many times that this would happen to have sympathy for those individuals. And that may be a horrible thing to say, and maybe it makes me a bad person. I genuinely don't care right now, though. I do, however, have mountains of sympathy for the other folks, right? The people that did not vote for this, but will also be victims of it. And that leads me to another viewer question. This one is from RDP7841, who asks, what could happen to my 401k and pension with Trump in office? And the answer is, it's probably not going to do well. Now, we immediately saw after the election, the day after the election, stock market, massive gains. In fact, for a long time after the election, obviously, pretty big gains in the stock market. If you own stocks, if you have a pension 401k in the stock market right now, you're probably enjoying things. But the honeymoon will wear off. Now, it will start with the average people, right? The people who do not have pensions and 401ks and, savings accounts. They will be hit first. And once they get hit, spending contracts. When spending contracts, the economy contracts. When the economy begins to contract, the U.S. goes into a recession. If we have 4 quarters in a row where we have sustained contraction, we enter a depression. When we enter that part of things, stocks will go down. How far? We don't know. Could it potentially wipe out pensions and 401ks? Maybe. Or could it just take a little bit of a hit and then, of course, maybe they rebound? Definitely that could happen too. But both of those are very real possibilities now. Donald Trump's plans that he has stated, assuming he enacts them, will cause an overall contraction within the U.S. economy, including, of course, his tax cut plan. Those tax cuts are not going to benefit people who make below $400,000 a year. That is why that $400,000 was the magic number that Kamala Harris was telling us. You make over $400,000, we're taking away your tax cuts. You're going to pay more. You're going to pay your fair share. Now, if you make over $400,000, great for you. You're going to make more money. For now, until the contraction starts. It won't hit you in the first quarter or maybe even the second quarter. But if Trump enacts these plans at the beginning of his presidency, like he says he is, by this time next year, all of us, regardless of your net worth, regardless of how well off you may be, you'll feel it too. Nobody will be spared. Some will be able to weather it better than others, absolutely. But in the end, the economy doesn't spare anyone. So there is reason for concern. What will happen, to a T, we don't know. But I'm willing to bet, based on what all of the economists are telling us, including dozens of Nobel Prize-winning economists, it's not going to be pretty for anyone by the time it's all over.
Jim Horn says Bidenomics hurt a bunch of us. Trump will fix things just as he did in 2017 through 2020. He will kick ass politically with his new team, already starting with Canada and Mexico. Okay, Jim, so I'd just like to know whose ass he's kicking by putting 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico. Tariffs are a consumer tax paid by the importer and passed on to the end consumer. So combined, Canada and Mexico supply roughly 50% of America's building materials for our homes. And Mexico represents 73% of our fruit and vegetable imports. During the wintertime, Mexico is the primary supplier of our fresh fruits and vegetables. Canada supplies nearly 50% of our paper goods. And we're not even talking about things that we could readily avoid purchasing, such as, we could buy an American-made car, but this is rather our day-to-day goods that we rely upon for our day-to-day lives. Speaking of things we use day-to-day, 75% of our energy trade is with Canada and Mexico. This will drive up the cost for the American citizens at the gas pumps. Additionally, Canada and Mexico have both indicated that they're not just going to roll over this time, but rather plan retaliatory actions of their own. So again, just whose ass is going to get kicked here? Because it sure sounds like it's the American people who are going to get their ass kicked. And then there's this thing where they need to secure their borders and stop fentanyl from entering America. But something like 95% of fentanyl enters America brought in by American citizens. The primary way in which fentanyl is entering America is by American citizens who commute across the border daily. So you want a foreign country to be harassing American citizens in order to exit their country and return to their country of origin. That's not how borders work. Screening is done by the country of entry. Trump is literally telling Canada and Mexico to do America's job for them. But it's really far worse, because you're asking a foreign country to assault American citizens who are trying to get back into their own home country. If American citizens need to be screened more thoroughly for carrying drugs back into the U.S., it needs to be done by American security. But here's the dirty little secret. That security is in on the drug trade. That drug trade only exists to the level that it does because security is always in on the traffic. Sorry, folks, but that's just the reality of the beast. And throwing Canada into this mess is just an extra level of mind-boggling stupidity. Virtually no fentanyl is coming across the Canadian border. It's in the single-digit percentages. Meanwhile, the American people, especially the lower class, who are struggling to make it day to day, adding this kind of burden to their cost of living is downright criminal. The kind of behavior that people take up arms over. Frequently, the people who are cheering for this falsely claim to represent the ideals and beliefs of America's founders. Yet America's founders rebelled and used this kind of thing as a reason to go to war and over a 3% tariff on tea. These people who falsely call themselves patriots, while they support the actions of a would-be tyrant. I don't recall the number of times I've seen these frauds make brave comments about reliving 1776. I can't tell you what the future is going to bring, but I do know that if we are going to have 1776 again, I know who the oppressor is, and I, for one, will not be standing with that oppressor or those who support him.
Great is the P&M, where people eat shit and say ha 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 ha, so we shall have it. You hear what he's saying? You hear what he's telling all you? Fully done is the new ranking rate now. So all who fully done ain't go follow this. Or ain't go say nothing about this. Ain't go come out and protest by the numbers. Because the robbing we in this country, take we Pitch Lake and Gateway. Take we refinery and close it down. So some of we can have no big money man no more. You understand me? We take everything that we have and say the country don't have no money, but he pay could increase by 35,000. I telling you, great is the P&M, and look what the nigga do, the nigga. Eh? Great is the P&M. Great is the P&M. Great is the P&M. Only snake in them bodies. Snake. Only snake. Look, nigga, people now.
So if you go to YouTube and search the Freedom Pines, you cannot find me because our Canadian government is censoring me. And if you guys don't think this happens, there's literal video proof. In Bill C-11, the CRTC basically has control over what Google puts out, okay? But what they need to understand, this is a message to the CRTC, Google, the government, whatever. I need you guys to really understand that, like, I am crazier. I know you guys think that I am just going to give up, which clearly means, that you haven't done your research, because I don't fucking stop, okay? I am purely driven by pettiness, confidence, and my ego. I always have been, and I always will, okay? I know I have what it takes. I know I'm a smart person, okay? I know what I'm talking about. You guys sent my mentally ill ass to college, made me learn all of these ethics, morals, principles, and then continuously break them over and over again and expect to get away with it? No, my ADHD and apparently the fact that I'm a Libra will not let that happen. Okay? You guys have, it's like, I really wish that I could come on this app and do what I wanted to do. My original thing was that I wanted to showcase all of the small businesses in Northern Ontario and have a podcast to do that. But guess what? I can't even afford the gas to go and interview people. After all of my money was stolen from me too. I can't even make my trad wife content. Okay, I can't even make it because I'm so fucking mad. And every time I've tried to crawl myself out of the hole that happens when the government keeps making all of these insane rules and regulations and laws and policies, I am continuously beaten down like that fucking Gopher arcade game. But if you haven't noticed, I keep getting up. Okay? You injected me twice, almost died the second time, but I didn't, all right? Killed my favorite person because you decided to close cancer clinics for the betterment of everybody. Okay. Now I can't work because of said injections, all right? And you guys continuously try to take my videos down, censor me, and you have deleted my account at 13K. But if you haven't noticed, if there's one thing that I have learned over the last 4 years is that humans are fucking resilient. And I think the government wasn't prepared for how resilient humans can really be. Because there's poison in our food, there's poison in our waters, there's poison in our medicine. They have done everything and anything that they can to try to take us out. And you know what? We're still standing. And the government can take down all of the conservative voices it wants to. Do you really think after all this time I would just be like, you know what? Okay, you got me. I'm gonna walk away. No, that's not how this works, okay? So please do me a favor and...
How is it possible that the rebrand of the London Overground train system costs £6.3 million? For those non-London people, you've got the Tube, which everyone knows about, and then there's the trains that run over London. And simply to rename those and then change the colours of the lines on the maps and the posters and the online digital, London paid 6.3 million quid. Now, let's be clear, there's a lot of reprinting and reworking to do, but still, £6.3 million sounds like a lot of money, doesn't it? It's because it is. And the difficulty is that your local council and your local government is staffed by people that don't run real businesses. They don't actually have to make money. Instead, they get given a budget. Now, they're always complaining about the budget is too small, and they're always saying that they have to work really hard to deliver value for that budget. But let me put it this way. You know, when you get your first Saturday job, you have to go out and do an actual thing, which is grim and awful and rubbish and hard work, and then you get given some money. And it totally changes your perspective of where money comes from. See, before that, if you're lucky, somebody in your life, parents perhaps, somebody you grow up with, gives you pocket money. And that money just comes to you magically every week or every month. That's how politicians and councillors act.
$335,000 in travel expenses for a gender ambassador. Once again, coming out of the taxpayer's pocket. They just can't get enough of these ridiculous travel expenses, can they? What a slap in the face to hardworking Australians. People having to get up every single day and go provide a service for humanity in order to provide a living, just so people like this can spend over $250,000 to fly around the world. What an absolute joke.
Did you know that Canada, yes, Canada is ranked as one of the least corrupt countries in the world? But before you start picturing a nation of perfect politicians and squeaky clean governments, let me ask you this. What if everything you think you know about Canada's political integrity is a carefully crafted illusion? Think about it. The country with the image of peace, politeness, and fairness is hiding some of the most scandalous political secrets. From high-profile politicians caught in corruption scandals to corporate lobbyists pulling the strings behind the scenes, Canada's political system might be a lot less ethical than you've been led to believe. Take the SNC Lavalin scandal, for example, a case that rocked the nation and showed how the political elite could manipulate the system for personal gain. Or consider the WE charity scandal, where millions of taxpayer dollars went missing and no one seemed to pay the price. And yet these stories often get swept under the rug, leaving Canadians to question, how much of what we see is really true? In this video, we're about to peel back the curtain on Canada's political system and reveal why it might be more corrupt than you think. Stay tuned, because by the end, you'll see Canada's political landscape in an entirely new light, and you might just be shocked at what you discover.
Rolly, where the fuck you does be going? $10 million in taxpayers' money you traveling with. You now collect $105 million in property tax, and you wire money online too. But citizens of Trinidad and Tobago suffering because they can't get no US dollars. And this jackass telling we to travel abroad to see how sweet Trinidad and Tobago is. Where the fuck you we travel with TT dollars? You need to fucking get charged and step down. You missus, I don't know what the fuck you really doing, because while you missing, this businessman getting chopped up. Protest going on. This CNC train news, people. Watch. This man was arrested after the uniform was found in his home. Business people are scared to report it, and this cunt hole laughing. With business begging for school furniture, and this jackass, my cousin was murdered. Give fuck you. Use our waste of sperm. Ola, you serves no purpose, and I don't even know why you even exist, because this man is a clear example of how shitty you just do your job. Down to the tenants fed up at HEC, and all of this son is penalty.
How the whole system has become fake. So you have fake meritocracy, fake responsibility, and then fake cabinet government. So they all walk up Downing Street, the cameras whir, they pose, they smile, ha, I'm going into the most powerful meeting, aren't I great? But it's all nonsense. The cabinet is just a kind of stage theatre. And actually officials in the cabinet office have already decided it all. When you sit in Whitehall now, right, in meetings, they are literally scripted. So when the Prime Minister has a meeting with ministers, what happens is that before the Prime Minister has that meeting, officials go into the Prime Minister's study and they give him a folder. And in the folder at the front is a thing called Chairman's Notes. And that's the script. And that's what the Prime Minister reads out. And the conclusions of the meeting are in the Chairman's Notes, drafted before the meeting happens, right? So the Prime Minister says, hello, Secretary of State, blah, blah, blah. And then all these officials sit around the sides on chairs around the edge of the room. And then the MP, the Secretaries of State, all look down at their folders because they've all got their scripts, right? And this is why I use the NPC meme, right? Because then the Prime Minister reads out, well, we're here to discuss blah, blah, and then he goes around the room, and then Secretary of State for Justice or the Foreign Secretary reads out his bullet points, and then he reads out their bullet points, and they read out. If anyone goes on the script, you see the officials sort of go, and then look over at the other official on the side of the room and kind of go. That means we'll come back to that after the meeting and make sure that that doesn't happen. And then at the end, it was a fascinating, great discussion. Thank you so much for your wonderful, insightful, original contributions. And then he reads out the conclusions, which are all drafted in advance. And it sounds like a parody, but it is literally how the British state functions. And the MPs are happy with that, right? Well, how does the psychology of it work? The officials are happy because they have almost all the real power. The cabinet secretary is now 100 times more powerful than any cabinet minister apart from the PM. And the MPs are happy because this whole system pretends that they're in charge. So both sides are basically happy with the fake version of the government.
U.S. officials is discussing giving nuclear weapons to Ukraine. Oh my fucking God, they finna start World War III. You know, Putin is not finna let that shit slide. Like, why the fuck are we discussing that? Why the fuck are we even thinking that? That's a bad fucking decision. You finna leave office, and the last thing you do before you leave office is start a World War III? The last thing you finna fucking do is start a fucking war in another country that half of Americans really don't give a fuck about. Everything is already so fucking high. The price of everything is so fucking high. That shit finna be like, if you want to buy a fucking loaf of bread, $11. For the love of God, this is a fucking terrible decision. Like the worst decision that you can make before you leave office. Like, who said that this was a good idea? Who the fuck said that this was a good idea? I really want to meet the fucking genius in the fucking Biden administration who raised their fucking hand and say, hey, before you leave office, I think you should give Ukraine a fucking nuke. Yeah, that's really gonna stop their problem. That's really, yeah, Russia really finna stop. They ain't got nukes too. They got multiple nukes. They ain't finna, this shit got me stressed. They ain't finna fucking stop. They ain't finna fucking stop. If you drop a nuke on Russia, they finna drop 20 nukes.
Guys, you cannot make this stuff up. Here's the fake Prince of Peace. Huh, even calling him the second coming of God to Jews in Israel. Wow, where have I heard talks about peace? Oh, here. 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 Oh, also here too. Man, there's just a lot of talks about peace. Oh, even nominating him for the Nobel Peace Prize. Would you look at that? Here's some more talks of peace. Do I need to say any more? They just can't wait for this guy to get in office so he can invoke peace everywhere. Guys, you know what they say. You know what the Word of God says. When they say peace and safety, sudden destruction shall come upon them, and they will not escape it.
Understand what just happened. Russia just sent an ICBM, possibly an IRBM, but that's besides the point. This would have triggered NATO's early warning nuclear detection systems, okay? So NATO knew potentially a nuclear weapon was inbound, and they did not notify the population that this was going down. This, of course, comes after the UK just fired more Storm Shadow missiles into Russia, confirmed by the Russian MOD. Multiple instances of ATACMS, Storm Shadows, attacking inside Russia as Ukraine invades Kursk. We're currently in a situation where there is no red line, nuclear hotline into Washington between Moscow and Washington. There is no Russian ambassador currently in Washington. There's been a new nuclear doctrine recently ratified by Vladimir Putin. We are closer to nuclear war than ever before, and they're not telling you anything in the mainstream media. If that's not proof positive that you 100% will be on your own when it goes down, I don't know what is. The strike using the IRBM, or the intermediate range ballistic missile, possibly an ICBM, the jury is still out. Either way, these things were traveling fast, likely north of 20,000 kilometers per hour. They used multiple independent reentry vehicles, all of which could have been nuclear tipped.
You know, as I'm flipping around through social media today, I found something that's extremely disturbing, and I want you to comment on it if you don't mind. I saw so many people that I could tell by their answers or comments that they had made that they were totally unaware that on November 17th, President Joe Biden had done something that basically started World War III. They had no idea that he signed on November 17th a document that gave Ukraine permission to use U.S.-made weapons inside Russia. And the reason that that is so dangerous is because Vladimir Putin had already said that if that actually happened, that he was going to see it as an act of war by any country that did that. On the very next day, on November 18th, Ukraine used U.S. missiles and fired inside of Russia. On the next day, or a couple of days later, what happened? Most people are not even aware of this. I don't know what news outlets they're looking at. I don't know if they're just ignoring things right here because everyone is talking about it. But if you pay attention, you can tell that they don't even know that what Joe Biden did just a few days ago put us in that type of danger across the whole world. And not only did the United States give them permission, but so did several other European countries. As a matter of fact, we know that Great Britain did, and so did France. Now, in the meantime, what Vladimir Putin did is just a few days later, he went in and he used a missile that has never, or several, that has never been used in world history. It is an intermediate range missile or an intercontinental ballistic missile that can go very, very fast, and no other system can detect it. And the reason that's so dangerous is if he used it on us, we wouldn't even be able to detect it. Our systems, our defense systems would not be able to detect it, and neither would anyone else's defense systems. And so you have to ask yourself, why would a president that only has 2 months in office basically start a war that so many people will not be able to survive? And then the other question is, why are there so many people in our country that don't even know about it? I want you to ask your friends, your family, people, especially Democrats. And the reason I say that is I'm watching their comments. Well, Donald Trump, the first day in office, is going to be a dictator, and he said he's going to do this. I was like, do you realize that what Donald Trump is going to have to deal with is what Joe Biden left for him? You have a president, this has never happened before. This is unprecedented, that a person that's leaving office will leave the incoming president with what could be World War III. And you understand the difference in World War III and World War II and World War I is World War III will be nuclear. And let me just tell you this, you might want to share this with them. Russia has the most nuclear weapons. The United States is second. China is third. Okay? And so everyone is saying, let's go get Russia. Russia has China on its side. It also has North Korea, Iran, and other countries. So you understand, this is not something to play with. This is not a bear that you want to poke and you think that everybody's just going to come out unscathed. This is one of the scariest periods in world history, and people don't even know about it. Ask your friends, ask your family if they know about what happened on November 17th of 2024. Did they know about that document? That Joe Biden signed? Do they know about the missiles that Russia has and that they've already used in Ukraine? They did not put nuclear warheads on those missiles, but everyone in the world knows that they have nuclear capabilities. Make sure that you ask your friends and family that, and then check out some of the responses. You can tell that these people that are still being concerned about Joe Biden, and I've even heard people still talk about that. What was that Agenda 2025? And he's going to be, and they're talking about Donald Trump is going to do all of these things. They don't even know that right now we're all in such jeopardy. Anyway, talk to your family, talk to your friends, see what they're saying about it, see if they even know about it, and then let them know how dangerous it is. Go somewhere and give them, you can even send them one of my videos. You can go to my profile, send them one of my videos. This is dangerous. We've never been here before.